Hello, I'm HG Tudor, and welcome to the 100,000 Subscriber Interviews, a series of short interviews with people who have harnessed my work and seized the power. My next guest is ready, so let's find out more about them. Hello, what's your name and where do you come from?
My name's Kristen and I'm from the US.
Hello, Kristen from the US. Thank you for joining me. Let's get straight into the questions. Number one, how did you find my work?
Well, some time ago, I came across something a friend had posted describing narcissistic behavior, and it dawned on me that it described my husband perfectly. So I started to do research on narcissism, and I came across your work, and honestly, I haven't looked back since.
Good to know. Number two, you've touched on it slightly with regard to your husband, but could you perhaps give a bit more expansion on the situation that brought you to the work?
Well, when I found your work, I'd been married at that point for 29 years, and my husband is physically and emotionally abusive, but I didn't know any different because we met when I was young. And so, like I said, when I saw the description of narcissism, it hit me like a ton of bricks, and I thought, oh, this is it. I finally have an answer. So then I met you and have continued on.
Okay. And that situation back that you found yourself involved with, how would you say that it affected you?
Well, I was a complete and utter mess, and I had been for years. It had gotten to the point where my health became affected. I couldn't eat. I had stomach pains. I was anxious all the time and quite depressed. It just took everything I could to get through the day, and I would say I was basically in survival mode. But that's all I had known for the entirety of my marriage. I'm stronger now, but still fighting to keep my head above water.
Understood. Which of my books have you read?
I have read Fuel, Manipulation, Get Out, and Escape.
And which of those did you find the most useful and why?
Well, I have to say they were equally beneficial, but in different ways. In the beginning, Fuel and Manipulation helped me make sense of the mental torment I was enduring and why it was happening. Then I progressed, Escape and Getting Out became more vital when I finally came to the realization that I had to leave my marriage and staying would never be an option again.
Okay. I don't know what's next to you at the moment, but something keeps interfering with the sound as if you're rubbing up against something. So I don't know if there's something catching against your microphone or phone.
Okay, perhaps it's the paper.
Yeah, perhaps if you try and keep that still, and
Okay.
then it won't detract from your answers, you see.
Okay.
Okay. And which product from the Knowledge Vault has helped you the most?
I would consider the NARC and empath detectors absolutely invaluable. As odd as it sounds, I was feeling great relief when you told me that my husband was a narcissist. I knew he was sick and disturbed, but finally having him identified as such confirmed that I was not losing my mind. The empath detector is a gift you give yourself. I've always felt or known that I was different. I feel emotions strongly and also physically, and even happens with complete strangers and in certain environments. But when you told me I was an empath, it was incredibly enlightening, and it answered questions that I'd had about myself for many years.
I'm pleased that's the case. What made you organize an audio consultation with me?
Well, I scheduled it initially to discuss my situation and to find out the results of the NARC detector.
Okay. And when you organized that, how did you feel just before you spoke to me for the first time?
As with most people, I was nervous, but shortly after we began to speak, you were very understanding, and that made me feel comfortable, and I was at peace.
Pleased to hear that. And where are you now with this situation?
Well, I am very happy to report that I'm light years from where I was when we first began to work together. This time last year, I hit a wall and I became indifferent regarding my marriage and my husband. I just did not care anymore, and that was unfamiliar territory for me because I feel things so strongly and give all of myself. Since then, I've been taking care of me and doing my best to stay strong for my children. I've retained an attorney who's not only familiar with narcissism, but has practiced for many years. He's preparing me so I'm in the best position possible when I file in a couple months. We have consults lined up well into the future. I'm going to be engaged in the biggest battle of my life, but I'm ready. I'm ready to take the next step.
All very positive. Well done. Number 10, what part of my work would you say has helped you the most and why?
I would say it's the numerous articles that you've written. I read them many times over, and I think they're a lifesaver because they're keeping me on track. They're reminding me of what I'm dealing with and how to handle it. So even though I know all of this in my head, having those reminders just helps so much, so I don't get entangled with the emotional thinking and that kind of thing, because it's daily. So I strongly suggest reading them when needed.
Yeah, almost like taking a daily pill to keep that emotional thinking at bay.
Definitely, and it works.
Excellent. And what would you like to learn more about?
Personally, I would love to know or have an idea of what to expect in recovery after I've left my husband. I know every situation is different. I'm familiar with your books, Red Flag and Black Flag, in regard to protecting yourself from narcissists. And perhaps this is a question maybe asked on the blog on what people have experienced. So since this is what I've known for so many years, I don't know what to expect. And perhaps that's unrealistic because, like I said, every situation is different.
Yeah, so once you've moved on from this entanglement, you want to know, what does the landscape look like for you as someone who doesn't know anything different from what you've experienced?
Oh, that's perfect. Yes, you have been able.
Well, we'll certainly be able to address that for you.
Yeah, very good.
What do you think of narcissists now, having gathered all of this information and knowledge that you have from me?
Well, oddly enough, I feel sorry for them.
Mm-hmm.
Knowing that they're incapable of changing is disheartening, and especially for the victims. I don't believe I'll ever lose that desire or need to help the broken, but now you've equipped me to recognize narcissists so that I can keep my distance, and that's vital. Yes.
And overall, what would you say, Kristen, is your favorite aspect of my work?
Well, that's an easy one. I would say it's you. I respect your intelligence, your wicked sense of humor, and your no nonsense manner, among other things. You've always been brutally honest about who and what you are, and I think that's a major factor in what makes you so effective. I see it as a no-brainer. Who better to learn from than the ultimate aware narcissist?
Excellent.
Yes, I think it's akin to being a pediatrician and not having children of your own.
Yeah.
The knowledge acquired will only be so effective until you've got life experience to practice what you teach. So not only are you the expert when it comes to narcissists, but also empaths. And I can say it's as though you know us better than we know ourselves. You've certainly observed many victims.
Absolutely right. Absolutely the case. And finally, what's your message to people listening, Kristen?
Well, I can truly say that you've saved me. I can't fathom where I'd be right now had I not come across you and your work. You can't put a price on the support you provide and the awakening that comes with the knowledge that you convey. It's a difficult journey, but very worth it. I've endured abuse for the majority of my life, and because the decades for the majority of my life, because of you, the decades of pain are coming to a close. I asked you not long ago if you ever had doubts as to whether I would get to this point, and you said that you knew I would succeed if I followed your work and did as you said. So I am living proof of that, and it's taken me a while, but I'm almost free of the bonds that have basically almost taken me down. So finally, I'd say that if anyone's considering a consult with you, they have nothing to lose but everything to gain.
Thank you for that endorsement, and you have come a very long way since the first conversation that you and I have had, and it's naturally rewarding to see the progress that you've made. So thank you, Kristen, for sharing your observations about my work and your experiences, and I'm sure everybody's listened will find that much of what you've said resonates with them. So thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.